Hey guys, this is Tommy from the Ravens Creek Study, and we are looking at an End Times 101 or an Eschatology 101, and we're in the midst of the discussion of Israel and what is Israel's ultimate purpose? What is her ultimate destiny? What is it that God is intending for Israel? And this one's probably going to be another short video. This one we're looking at Israel as God's nation. I've only got 3 slides here to go through, but I'm sure if you've been listening to me, you can tell that I'm able to go through a slide in 40 minutes if I need to. Um, Israel is God's nation among all nations. This is important in concept. You can see this in the choosing of Abraham, that he was called out of all nations and established as a nation to bless all nations. But you can see this also in the counter statement of Satan. Excuse me. Pardon me. You see, just as Satan has taken his pick and placed his name upon Babylon, that God has called one man out from all nations to make him a nation. This is not simply a political state. Israel's more than a political state. This is God's nation and statement. God has invested in Israel as a nation, not just as a people, but as a nation. God has invested in them to be his display. So this has a few implications. All of these, once again, like all of these subjects, depending on how much depth we wanted to get into, all of these could have volumes written on them. Israel is the priesthood. They are the theocratic kingdom, the government of God, essentially. And there's a display of God's character through Israel. And Israel is his witnesses under the 4 corners of the earth. Now this is one of those things, when you get to the New Testament, a lot of these things, it tells us that we are the priesthood. Or Revelation 1:7, we are kings and priests, right? So the kingdom here, this theocracy, this should be to the church, right? And what about the display of God's character? Aren't we the ambassadors of heaven? Aren't we the ones who are supposed to display Jesus? Aren't we his witnesses unto the 4 corners of the earth? Why is it that I'm saying this is for Israel? It's because the church has been grafted into Israel. This is Israel's ultimate purpose and destiny. Now, not all of Israel has fulfilled this. This is the whole conundrum of Romans 9 and 10. It's not like because they've been called to be this, that they've always been this and that all Jews are this. No, for not all Israel is Israel. But as the conclusion is in Romans 11:26, all Israel will be saved. There will be a day in which all of Israel will be this. It's not going to be a spiritual Israel and a secular Israel like we see today. And even the religious Jews who are not believers in Christ Jesus, the believing or the non-believing Jews that are very religious and devout and rabbinic, they still lack this. I heard the story of a man from Africa who came in contact with a rabbi, and the rabbi was trying to tell him, look, this Jesus, this is a false doctrine. This isn't really the Messiah. It's to Judaism that you're supposed to convert. And the man said, I realize that Israel is supposed to be the priesthood and the witnesses of God unto the nations, but it was not a Jew who came to my tribe in Africa and witnessed to us. It was a Christian. And he never said what the response was, just that the person he was talking to, this rabbi he was talking to, gave a very minimal answer that was not sufficient. It didn't answer the objection. So this is, in this, we have the summary of Israel's call, their ultimate purpose, if you will. Deuteronomy 7:6. For you, Israel, are a people holy unto the Lord your God. The Lord your God has chosen you out of all the peoples on the face of the earth to be his people, his treasured possession. So you can see this is God's nation here. Isaiah 51:6. Listen to me, my people. Hear me, my nation. God is not addressing them as soon to not be his people. And if you read in other parts of Isaiah, specifically in the 40s, over and over again, you find it. You can just kind of skim, and you'll find them in from chapter 40 onward. There, God says through Isaiah, "I have not rejected you. I have chosen you. I have not rejected you." And over again, it's this idea that God is not going to reject them either. Deuteronomy 4:34. Has any God ever tried to take for himself one nation out of another nation by testings, by miraculous signs and wonders, by war, and by a mighty and outstretched arm, or by great and awesome deeds, like all the things the Lord your God did for you in Egypt before your very eyes? Once again, challenging all the other gods. What God under all of the nations that you know, what God has ever done this? No, this God, Israel's God, the true God, is the one who has taken out a nation from another nation to establish it for himself. Do you see that? Take for himself one nation out of another nation. Do you see that? God has chosen this particular people above every other people. In order for us to even come into this faith, we must be grafted into that root. For us to even believe in Jesus, we must first, well, I guess I shouldn't say first, when we believe in Jesus, we're grafted into Israel. We become part of his election. God is jealous over Israel. I'm going to finish there. I'm going to stop there. I had a thought in my mind and it left. That's it. This is the scandal of specificity. It's a scandal to assert that God would be that specific. Do you understand what I'm saying here? The scandal is that God will not simply he doesn't simply choose who he chooses. He chooses a nation. Replacement theology denies God his right and his prerogative to choose whom he will choose. But this is also true of even Calvinism and many other theological grids that ultimately are based upon God choosing me, but not upon God's sovereignty in almost any other sense. You can be Calvinist and expecting God's absolute sovereignty, and yet still it doesn't go beyond the scopes of God choosing you. It's still this. There's a scandal here in God being that specific to choose that people, the people that we don't want him to choose. You see what I'm getting at here? Okay. So next we're going to look at Israel being priests, because I've mentioned Israel as priests multiple times through this, and even though it wasn't one of the first three subjects that I had intended to go through, priesthood is something that I've been talking about over and over again, and maybe we should explain a bit of understanding of what does it mean that Israel is to be a priesthood, or a nation of priests, or a kingdom of priests. So, grace and peace to you in Christ. Until next time, I bid you farewell.